Many of you watching over the years have somehow come away from the sewing machine, and today you're going to want to get back to that sewing machine. We're going to talk about the shirt dress. We're going to make it so simple for you that you're going to just want to turn the program off and run and make your own shirt dress. Literally, through our history of fashion, the shirt dress has come from the man's shirt. The details were taken from the man's shirt. The collars, the pockets, the sleeves, everything about it came from, and in many cases, they're actually made from crisp fabric, just like men's shirtings. But we don't have to. That's the good news about today. We can do them in so many different ways that we want to, and we're going to learn a lot about details, and we can customize them however we want to. So let's first off just take a look at what comprises the shirt dress. And I'm actually going to start from just a shirt pattern that I have, because I'm convinced you all have at least a shirt pattern in your pattern collection. So there's just 5 pieces. There's the blouse front, blouse back, sleeve, a facing, and a collar. So how long can it take me to get 5 pieces into one? I say not long. All right, so let's start first with this front, because what we're going to do is we're going to lengthen the blouse into a dress. And this is, like I said, a real simple thing to do. Many of you have a blouse that maybe you've made already. That's where I would start, rather than going out and maybe buying a new pattern that's just a shirt dress, because all we're going to do is lengthen it. And one thing about the shirt dress of today is there's actually several different ways that I can lengthen that bottom. And let's take a look and see how we can do that. The first one, if you notice in this particular shirt dress, the bottom is just like a shirt tail hem, which means it's longer in the front and back and then shorter at the sides. So it just literally is uneven. And like I said, if you haven't sewn for a while and you're nervous about getting the hem exactly even, do a shirt tail hem, and that way you can't go wrong. Then there's this one, and this one's actually what's called a high-low. And if you notice, the back is actually 5 inches longer than the front. In our younger fashions today, the high-low is really being taken to extreme, even in bridal gowns, where the front is being cut very high above the knee, and the back is almost maxi length. So the differences between the front and the back are yours to choose, but either way that you decide you want to do, this is again great for a beginner, just to make sure you don't have to worry about the hem being straight. The dress I have on, and again notice that these are shirtings, but the one I have on is a knit, and its hem is even. So again, I'm going to show you how to do both of those. So let's come to the table. And generally what you want to do is we're going to make up some type of mock first. And many say to me, oh, I don't want to do that. I'd rather just do it once and have it made. But if you do it once and have it made, you might have to do it again anyway. So this is a safe way of making sure you don't have to do it again. So let's just make up a sample. And what I want to do is see how long that sample is on me. Generally, from the time you have a shirt to a shirt dress, you're about 12 inches. You're going to add about 12 inches to the bottom. So I'm going to take this particular one, and I'm just going to extend this straight from the center front and just tape it to the paper, just to make sure it doesn't move. I didn't even do that. And then make that 12, make this 12, and then just go ahead and actually move your pattern down, and you can connect the identical shape of the bottom of that shirt dress, of that shirt. So that the exact same styling of the bottom of your shirt dress becomes on your shirt as well, or on the shirt becomes your shirt dress. All right, so now if you decide you want to go high-low, you're going to take the back, if this were the back, we'll just pretend it is, and you'll go way down and then just connect it to the side. And the only thing you have to worry about is that the sides will come together at the same length. If you want it to be straight across the bottom, you could add your 12 inches and then literally just come straight up here. When you're making a shirt dress, what you want to be careful of is that it goes over your hips. So all you have to do is measure your hips, divide by 4, because I've got 4 pieces. I've got 2 fronts, 2 backs, and let's say if my hips measure, pick a number, we'll say 40. We'll say 44. We'll make a number easily divisible by 4. Then at the hip area, I just want to make sure I come out the appropriate. I always come out a little bit more, just so that I have that extra ease. It's much easier to take in than it is to let out. So just make sure you're that, and then bring that line that's perpendicular just right back into the side seam, And that's all it is to making and adding the length at the bottom. So that's why I said, to me, if you've already have a blouse pattern, a shirt pattern, you've made it, you like it, then I would just stick with that and just add the length to the bottom. All right, so we've got that. There is not a lot of fit when it comes to a shirt dress. If we look at the differences between this I've left, and I've used the side seam and front darts to kind of take in and give it a little bit of shaping. This one we've used a belt, and in this case we've used a drawstring. All of those are positives, all of those are greats. Doesn't matter how you do it. With mine, I've used a little sweater that's overneath. It has buttons on the side, and so that brings in a shaping. But anytime you bring in shaping on a shirt dress, you're always going to feel and look better than if you just let it hang straight. In this particular case of the drawstring, let the drawstring hang down, and it gives your eye a more vertical look as opposed to making this short little bow right at the waist. When you leave the bow to be right at the waist, you have the tendency where it will actually draw the eye right to the waist, and you actually want it to be more vertical than horizontal. Okay, I'm going to show you a method of creating your own facing, and this is just a great little method. Anyone can do it. Notice if your center front on your blouse is got a buttonhole extension. That will be built into your pattern because it buttons up the front. You're going to take that and trace it literally. I'm going to put this underneath because I've already done it. So you're going to actually trace the shoulder edge, make that about 2 inches wide, trace the neck edge, and then if you notice, I've added about 1.5 inches extension out in front. Now, the reason I've done that is that's actually going to make the front facing. Here it is. Here's what it looks like. And that 1.5 inches, what it does is it gives me an ability to where it's going to fold over and then fold over again for a seam allowance. So I'm going to tuck the seam allowance under, and that is actually going to become my front facing. And the reason why this is so wonderful is I don't have to use any interfacing at all in the entire shirt, but I still have 1, 2, 3 layers to sew through, and it'll give the body that I need without being too much and without having to come in and time-wise use more interfacing. So again, I'm going to lay that down. I'm just going to give myself an extra amount. That extra amount that I'm giving is for the tab width and the seam allowance. So it doesn't have to be fixed. I can actually do whatever width I want. If I want it to be a little narrower, I can do that. The thing that's so great about this method and why it's so used so popularly in ready-to-wear is because if I look at this sample right here, I can see that my shirt now has piping on both sides. And that's a great little detail to add in if I want to, but if you notice that when I add the piping is right before I put this layer of stitch. So I put the piping in, stitch, and I come up with this effect. And then if you look at both sides, you'll see that it's just been repeated on both edges, and when they come together, they form the placket down the front. So the only reason I wanted to show you this facing is it's a great way to change up, again, your shirt dress and really have a lot of fun. We'll show you how to sew that in just a minute. But before we do, I want to talk about sleeves just briefly. Whenever I do a woven, now keep in mind that your shirt dress is going to have an ability to be knit or woven fabrics. It won't make any difference in the fit. Because you've got a loose fit anyway, it's taken in by the drawstring, the belt, the darts. All you have to really worry about is where the shoulder is and what kind of sleeve you are using. If you are using a blouse sleeve, which is a woven, you'll notice that it's going to be larger than a knit sleeve. And that's simply because for mobility, you need extra circumference in your woven, whereas in your knit is physically going to move for you, so you don't need that extra ease. So we can take then, because this is my favorite t-shirt, and it comes from my favorite t-shirt armhole, and we're actually going to take the armhole that comes with it. Then what I can do is I can just come to my blouse, and I can put my favorite t-shirt armhole onto my blouse. And to do that, I'm just going to line it up wherever I want here, and line it up over there. Just pivot it to where it aligns to the circumference of my bust. Now in this case, you'll notice it's higher, so I would just bring the side seam up to that point and draw on the armhole. Wherever the 2 points are, this one goes at the shoulder, this one goes at the side seam, and just draw on that armhole, and then I'm free to use the sleeve that goes with that armhole. And again, this would be in the case of a knit where I'd want that armhole to be a little smaller, or in the case of a a knit blouse. All right, so let's change collars. Collars are a fun thing to do. I've got 3 different collars up here. This one we're going to make mandarin. This one we're going to make regular, that's just that one. And in the mandarin, what we're going to do is literally, we're just going to cut that off. We just make it narrower. This one, instead of the tab, we don't want it, we're just going to cut it off that way, and you notice that it's shorter in the neck edge. Let's go to the sewing machine. I'm going to show you how to sew them. This is fun stuff. On the first collar, in this case, I've taken all of my seam allowances, tucked them under, and all I'm going to do, I've pressed that, it's all ready to go. I'm literally just going to make a little envelope. I'm going to put that inside, and I'm going to do what's called edge stitching on the sewing machine. So literally that goes underneath. If you notice in Ready to Wear, you will see where it is literally just stitched right along the edge, and I just continue the whole thing right on the edge. I'm going to show this to you so you can see it. And you can tell it's edge stitching because I can take my little finger and roll right underneath there. It's never been done right sides together and then flipped around. The other way I'm going to show you is if you're doing a collar that is the last one I showed you, and the collar doesn't actually come all the way to the front. So you're going to sew the shoulder seams together. This facing actually goes just like this. You're going to just go ahead and put it like you normally would. The collar stops short of the front, and then instead of stitching it like this, you're just going to wrap this around, fold it right at the fold. You can press all this ahead of time, and then just put it down and stitch that front section by the collar. And just for right now, I'm going to sew just up to the collar so I can invert it, and you can see what it's like. The shirt dress is just absolutely one of my favorites. I'm hoping it will be yours too, especially when I just fold that. I flip this around, and what you'll see then is I'll go ahead and continue my front facing, and that will be my new collar. The reason this facing is so great is because as it's worn open, this will all be in the same color. You really don't want to make it all these many colors, or maybe you do, but if you decide to make it all the same color, what you'll see is that folds back, and so we don't have to actually use a two-sided fabric. So the good news is, get a shirt dress, make it. The 50s are definitely current at this time, and hope that all of you will do that.